He was known as the Dust Bowl Troubadour. Oklahoma's own Woody Guthrie died in New York in 1967. The country's losses in the 60s were just getting started. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot in Memphis, and 2 months later, Robert Kennedy Jr. Toto's Dorothy, Judy Garland, would see an estimated 22,000 attend her funeral. The transportation landscape was unscheduled. Interstate 40 would carve a wide, clear path across Oklahoma. The realignment of Route 66 would result in small towns slowly fading back into obscurity. The church at 41st and Grove started their new chapter.
Well, when I was a kid, the pastor we had was a guy named T.T. Crabtree. He pastored the church after Max Stanfield died. Really smart, a great theologian, but we weren't actually growing much.
Dr. Crabtree was a good man, but he didn't have that heart, that same heart. Very, very smart man, a strong theologian. That's why he felt comfortable with.
Yeah, he just wasn't a real dynamic guy. I loved the guy, but that wasn't him.
Smartest thing Dr. Crabtree ever did was when he called Max Alexander.
I was a teenager when Max Alexander came. We didn't have youth pastors back then, so he took charge of the youth. So we had youth choir. Of course, he led the music. He was a music man. And so he was our man.
He always was focused on what's Jesus doing in your life now. Not just, hi, how you doing? It's what's God been teaching you or what's God been doing. And he was just a real constant, and he loved people.
He was a guy that would kind of tell you, the truth about what you were doing and what you shouldn't be doing. And he never looked down on you. He always loved you.
He was a staff person that represented, that would go to Falls Creek with us. He was a staff person that would lead out in things. But he never came, and we had our youth time where Max spoke to us. He did the youth choir. He did that. But all the other things, the Sunday school and that was still all lay people. But you had Max at the helm doing it. But he was just such a good guy.
Ann's Chicken Fry on 39th Street served the best chicken fried steak in Oklahoma City. Some would say all of Oklahoma. If you were a regular at Ann's, you came for the garlic ranch dressing served on a small dinner salad. In the 70s, Ann's was surviving on Route 66. Oklahoma City, it was growing as well. Certainly, better times were ahead.
Max Stanfield was when my parents joined. And then the one that sticks out, of course, is Douglas, Richard Douglas, because that was really a beginning of growing in my own heart. Just his sermons were just really touching to me.
Richard was a different kind of guy than T.T. He was good in the pulpit. He was a missionary that came back to America and became a pastor. So missionaries have a little different mindset as pastors than pastors do. But he was good at what he did, and the church began to flourish.
Douglas was very laid back. They knew what it was to take your time and listen to the people. And I think that was one of the things that helped a whole lot. And we grew a lot during his time he was there.
In his sermons, he would break into his Portuguese for a point, because he was a missionary in Brazil. Richard got us back up over 1,000. He helped grow the church. Again, it's not numbers, but I think he had a heart for people.
Marilyn and Louis Stone were a very special couple, and they had the heart for people. And they discovered the Vietnamese were needing to have some kind of support.
At the time that the Vietnamese ministry started here was right after the Vietnam War. And so a lot of Vietnamese were moving to America because they had been affected by the war. And back in those days, you had to have a sponsor so that while they were here for that first year, they knew they were going to be taken care of.
And that couple just built this ministry within our church to just help them grow, help them find places to live, help them find jobs. They were a very great couple in that ministry.
John A. Brown's was a fixture in downtown Oklahoma City. Families dressed up with shined shoes for a weekend visit to the iconic department store. Urban renewal would change the skyline of downtown, and with it, John Brown's as well. In 1979, John Brown's wasn't the top news headline of the day. The church on 41st and Grove was.
I won't forget the night that Rhonda's dad called in the middle of the night and said Richard Douglas and his wife have been murdered tonight. And you were just shell-shocked.
We loved them. When his death came, we were all very surprised and very hurt. It took us a while to get over that.
So that was a very traumatic moment when you hear about that. Your pastor's been shot and killed, and it's all over the news, and so you're all gravitating toward the TV to be sure to catch everything you can find out.
I know where I was because my dad called me that morning and said, Richard and Marilyn were murdered last night, and the kids they were both in the hospital, I'm sure.
At times, this is me, at times I believe he probably wished he was back on the mission field. But when he moved out to Okarche, people thought it was odd and strange. So I really feel like that the people were thinking if it was in the waning days of his ministry here at the church. I don't know. They could have been thinking that. But when they were murdered, I don't exactly remember where I was when my mom called, but it just is one of those things you couldn't believe.
But it didn't tear us down. It didn't break us up. We just kind of came together, and Max was there to kind of keep us together. And we had some other guys in the church too that stepped up and did some preaching and did some stuff. And until we could find us another guy. But we did. And then Rod Masteller came along. And then things grew really quickly.
It was surreal, almost unbelievable. Amidst tragic loss, the small church continued to grow. The community seemed to rally. The country followed suit, bringing new hope for jobs in a once struggling economy. Gold medals for an upstart hockey team. And E.T. captured our extraterrestrial imagination. All was right in Oklahoma's tornadic world. Good times, bad times. The little church had seen both. Still, they pushed forward, eyes open, for the gospel.